All right, guys, let's talk about the altcoin dilemma that everyone is facing. That is, everyone that has been sucked up into the meme coin hype, the promise of multiple altcoin seasons, and potentially those who have made profits and then round tripped it all the way back down. Hopefully, today's video can give you some strategies to use in your portfolios now and into the future. And at the very least, maybe gives you some sort of hopium for today to make you feel a little bit better for some of those losses. If it does, make us all feel a bit better, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share the video with a friend. It does go a long way to helping out the channel. I've covered the macro cycle here. So we're looking at the traditional finance space, but today I'm going to focus just that little bit more on the altcoin space. Now, of course, because I bring it all together, I will have a lot of solid hopium for you with the cycle ahead. Well, the rest of the cycle that I think is going to continue up. We're looking at that 18.6 year cycle, but I'll just shave in a little bit of the traditional markets today. So let me start with this to set the scene, put us into the position I think that we need to be in mentally. Apparently, Warren Buffett said this: you will continue to suffer if you have an emotional reaction to everything that is said to you. I think that works really, really well with life, obviously with trading and investing, but of course, you can apply this to absolutely anything. And we see it all the time. I'll pick it XRP, I'll pick it ADA, I'll pick it Solana, I'll pick it whatever it is. The emotional reaction is ridiculous. At the end of the day, they're just numbers on a screen, they're letters on a screen. The emotional reaction is tied to our bank accounts, but also who we think we are when it comes to these sort of investors, I guess, because sometimes people bring themselves towards some sort of army, you know, an XRP army, or they find themselves in some sort of community. Maybe it's meme coins. Maybe it is, you're a real estate guy, or you're a stock trader, or you're something. That's the emotional reaction. So of course, Buffett is an investor. He's a long-term swing trader as well, position trader. But at the end of the day, you can tell that he would not give a shit if you said Coca-Cola, which is one of his biggest holdings. If Coca-Cola was absolute garbage, it's disgusting for your health, no one should drink this, he doesn't care. But the reaction we get in meme coins, in altcoins, trading any of this degenerate crap, the emotion is ridiculous. Everyone goes absolutely bananas no matter what. And, I guess I just play on that because I do it to see what level of emotion we are at. And if the emotion is very high, well, then I can go, well, it's probably not a great place to be in longer term, because you don't want to be part of something that is super, super emotional. The whole believe in something, as I pointed out yesterday, I mentioned believe in something is dead. How is this helping you right now? To me, I reflect on that. If I have an emotional reaction to something, to everything that is said to you, you will continue to suffer. So the first things first, let's move this out of the way, bring up some of the points that I've got down below. Altcoin dilemma that everyone is facing. 5 different things I want to look at here. Altcoins being down, is it too late to sell now? What if I sell now and they go up, and what can I do about it now, right? Oh, and the last one, can I avoid these losses next time? So on top of that, add in this suffering here. If you get an emotional reaction to shit, that is a massive problem that you need to fix right now. Okay, next up is the look at some of these charts. This is sort of like the problem that we're all facing at this point. If we're in these altcoins, right? I'll add on top of this, if the altcoin, the altcoins are down 80 something plus %, there is always the possibility that they go up from this point. There is the possibility that you sell out and they go up without you. There is the possibility that you don't sell out and they continue down. No one has the answer for that. That's why it's important to write down your trading plans. Write down what it is that you want to do. Now, in terms of the charts, they all basically look like this. I don't have any altcoin mentioned here. This one here is NKLA. It's Nikola. Today they went into bankruptcy or filed for bankruptcy. Share price is something like 30 or 60 cents. It's bounced a hell of a lot, but it peaked out at $2,800. It's down 99.99999% in those last nearly 5 years. So an absolute disgusting place to be in, but there were so many times that you could get out of this stock. It's dumped, bounced, dumped, bounced, dumped, bounced, dumped, bounced, dumped, bounced, dumped, bounced. Okay, you get the point, right? It just keeps going and going and going. Altcoins can end up like this. You can say it again with yourself, pause it, whatever. Altcoins can end up like this. I'm not trying to get you to sell out of your altcoins now. It's just to understand. It's to believe in something and believe that your altcoin can do this. Now, of course, you know, the old quote, the old saying, I guess it's floating around is it's not your altcoin, it's someone else's altcoin. Maybe it is, right? But it's really important to know that the worst possible situation that you can be in, because it's trading and investing. You have to always look out for the worst, not for the best. That's how you survive decades upon decades. The idiocy of altcoins and the crypto market is that people are only looking out for the best. They just want to be told the best thing. They want to be hyped up in their little world on X or in Discord or Telegram or YouTube, and they want to be made to feel good, and they'll go and invest in something that makes them feel good. They'll go to the YouTuber or the influencer, wherever they are, that makes them feel good. Trading and investing isn't about feeling good. So I'll come back to this. You'll continue to suffer if you have an emotional reaction to everything that is said to you. Emotions are the ones that make you feel good and the ones that make you feel bad. So if you have an emotional reaction and only doing things that make you feel good, you're going to ignore the stuff that makes you feel bad. And you need to understand the worst case scenarios. It sounds pretty dire. That's not the point. The point is you want your money in your pockets. And unfortunately, it usually happens at these times when the markets are down that people tend to want to listen to the bad stuff and hopefully make some changes rather than making changes when things are good, you know, taking some profits when things are good. This kind of stems from a conversation I had with a friend at the gym this morning who is also a TIA Premium member. A little shout out to TIA Premium there as well. And we're just discussing how these markets work and the emotions of the run-ups into the peaks, and then what stops us from selling out or selling at least some towards those peaks and then watching it ride all the way back down. So shout out to you if you're watching. They're never too low to sell. The point is from this point to this low point can be another 50, 60, 70%. And then from this low point here to the next low point could be 20%. And from that low point to the next one or the next one could be another 50%. And for those who are wondering, well, how do you add up 50, 50, 50, 50 to equal 100%? It's about the percentage loss between those 2 points, not from the one reference point of the high. Because what tends to happen is people keep buying these dips all the way down, and then when it finally starts to move up, they're super happy, but they don't have an idea of what their average entry price is. So keep an idea of that. And if it hurts, well, okay, don't have an emotional reaction to it. Do something about it instead of being a bitch about it. Do something about it means understand your portfolio's position. Maybe reduce your risk in certain assets and go into something else. There's some minor things that you can do to help your position. So Sol BTC broken under some major support here. This is, I'm looking at 0.3 and 0.4. What if I sell now and they go up? And what can I do about it now? So there are some charts which are potentially breaking down against their BTC values, but they might be holding up okay against their USD values. One thing you can do, you don't have to, is look at the strength and weakness versus Bitcoin, obviously because Bitcoin is being relatively strong. Now, of course, factoring in 0.3, these two kind of go together. What if I sell now and they go up? Unfortunately, that is always the case. No one knows for sure. I use tools, I use indicators that I've noticed and back tested to know that they do relatively well, putting the probabilities in my favor over time. For example, the 50% level. So this is a bit of a closer up point here. Now we haven't seen the weekly bar close. I just thought this was a good example because it's happening right now as I'm filming this. 50% at around 18 or 180,000 Satoshis, depending on how many zeros the exchange puts in here, right? It looks like 17,000 here, but there's another zero there because Bitcoin is divided by 8. So it's 8 decimal places. So it's breaking down here. Maybe this closes above and it was all just a hoax, right? Because there was a lot of points from people talking about here. It was an orchestrated dump. Obviously, that sounds like manipulation. There's an ETF coming. Okay. No matter what these narratives are going on in the background, up to you if you choose just to follow the chart to make life a little bit easier and reduce the emotions in the game. As I said, what can I do? What if I sell now and it goes back up? That's always a possibility, just like what happened back in December. Now, you could have sold when this started to break down. You see a higher low and then this massive abnormal bar, this big pump, but the weakness shows again, closing underneath the 50% levels, closing back underneath all those previous tops. This was rejected at 50% back in March of 2024, so nearly 12 months ago. And then you get 1 week down, another week down, another week down, inside down, another week down. Something isn't right here. Now, there's going to be some sort of reaction eventually, but unless it can get back over key levels that you've identified as being areas that you see the market turn from bearish to bullish in a longer term time frame, then there's no point in getting emotional, getting excited about any sort of rally unless you're choosing to sell on those rallies. Because that's pretty much where it could get rejected, and then the trend resume on the way back down. So that's definitely a possibility here for Solana, right? So just identify those levels on the charts that you're looking at. So what can I do about it now? Identify the levels where you actually see the market go from a downtrend into an uptrend, and that would start to solidify the strength in that market, which means you could potentially continue to hold onto those. So I'm looking at point 2. They're too low to sell now. Possibly, but what if they kept going down? And that's why we get to point 3 and point 4 and start to flip the probabilities in our favor. Find those areas where you see those probabilities of the market going from the downtrend into the uptrend. The examples are endless of where these levels can come in at. That's why I'm just giving you one clear example here, being those 50% levels from the all-time highs down to the all-time lows, or a very significant range, which you'll have to identify on your particular altcoins, because of course I can't go through 20, 30 million different altcoins at the moment. But if you do want to learn more about this in greater detail to apply to your plans, check out TIA Premium. There is a link in the video description down below, or just join us for the free report that comes out once a week. That will be at the top of the video description. Click that, name, email address, and it will go straight to your inbox every Tuesday evening, or potentially Monday night, depending on where you are in the world. This is SPX as one of the examples. SPX 6900, lots of meme coin fans around this one. And just looking at this as a potential example, you can see it broke down from the 50% on the extension here. That's his level all the way down. And then it hit dead on 100%. So it's done exactly 100% of the move in the first downtrend. Downtrend, rally, downtrend, 100%. And that's where you can set those targets for the shorts, that is. Now, it's found a little bit of support here. However, there is still the possibility it could keep going down. You've got some levels back at 42. You've got levels back in the, low 20s and potentially underneath 20 cents. We're just not going to get too far ahead of ourselves. And that's how these things end up, with the losses compounding on themselves. Rather than buying the dips, there could be some losses that compound on themselves here. Going to the lows here, 34%, to the next levels, 63%, and so they can keep going. As I said, this could rally from this point. You just need to find out and identify the levels that it needs to overcome to flip from a downtrend into an uptrend. And for SPX, I'd be looking at somewhere around 90 cents to roughly around $1, because that would mean that the buying has stepped in and is now consolidating above the 2 previous levels, the 50% level, which is a key area that markets need to hold above. You can see even just before this happened, the 50% level bounced off it, came back above, and then the swing low. That's to tell you that there are going to be some very interested parties looking to continue to consolidate with this particular coin. But until then, any sort of move over the coming days or weeks could just be met with further resistance, and just watch out for that downside. So that goes for anything. That was basically just one of those examples. How long can this go for? How long can this go for? So I'm looking somewhere into March, right? The prices could keep rising up, but I'm looking out for any sort of rejections. If Bitcoin starts to close and hold above 99 to 100K, that's the first sign. The major area I'm looking for is above 103, because we still have not been able to get back above the bar of the 3rd of February, which was that big move to the upside. So the move has been fading out for a number of days. The low we saw on Tuesday was actually a pretty extreme emotion day. And we saw that with some of the comments, we saw it with views and the people in the space. Maybe it's yourself watching. Tuesday was one of those days, but Bitcoin was able to close higher. So that leads me to think that we might see at least an intermediate rally. And I guess if you want to hope that the bear market is over, well then this would lead to the final low being a higher low upon a higher low, which is actually a good sign. There's your hopium. And it starts to consolidate above these levels. And that's why I put together those last couple of videos here, risking it all, and also what it feels like to miss the bottom. Because those feelings at the lows, you typically think it's going to go down a little bit further, but in essence, it doesn't, and it just holds up from those particular lows. September was a beautiful example of that. September 2024, March 2023, banking non-crisis, so 2 years ago now, held up at another higher low. Beautiful times there. You can see this on the chart, much, much higher at 19K from the 15K. Everyone thought the banking world was over and Bitcoin bursts again. Lots and lots of examples. We don't need to go through that in this video. We'll continue to follow up on the channel with those examples. So make sure you subscribe. Can I avoid these losses next time? The obvious answer is yes. But again, it's pretty difficult to do. I would say, one, if you keep having emotional reactions, find out some things that you do towards those peaks. One thing I heard recently was if you start to look at your portfolios and you see how wealthy you are and you start to count down the days to when you think you'll be financially free, or you can get out of your job and you think this is going to make me absolutely rich, probably a reasonable time to at least take something off the table. It doesn't have to be all of it, but just something so that you can reduce those emotions. And your emotional reaction will, it's going to dictate your day, and you're going to look at those movements and the swings. And as it goes down, you'll hope and wish that you had sold something at that higher watermark price. And you just see these big, wild, volatile swings. And that's what we've been talking about now for months on the channel, leading into we're in the winner's curse phase of the US real estate and economic cycle. The volatility picks up. And with higher volatility are higher emotions, worse decisions are typically made. So try to avoid that. That's one of the things that I would put down here. Can I avoid the losses? That's just a simple look at your emotions at this point. If you find yourself doing that, maybe it's time to take a step back, take a little bit off the table. What about something objective? Can I avoid these losses next time? Objectively, I would look at a couple of signals. We've looked at several of these on the channel before. One in particular that has continued to work very, very well for BTC was this 3-bar down rule. 1, 2, 3 days down. In this case, because we're looking at a daily chart, that is green, but it is still a lower high, lower low. And if you want something a bit more foolproof, check out the Gann Swing Pro, part of your TIA indicator suite. There's also a link for that in the video description. Turn on the settings, go to inputs, check out bar type, so show bar type. And if you're looking for tops to come in from significant areas, look for these 3 red down arrows. And that has to be from a significant top. And that was obviously a significant top because it was an all-time high. As you can see, leading up to that high, we didn't have any more of those signs there. Doesn't have to be there every time you get to a significant high, but if it is, pay very, very close attention to that. Now, of course, we went a few bucks higher, $1,000, so about 1%, just less than 1% to that next high, but the market has really not taken off from that point. We've seen this, the energy left the market, and we've basically been in a trading range now for coming up to 3 months, almost dead on 3 months now, between 89 and 109. That's one of the examples here I can give for can I avoid these losses next time? Pay attention to the signals, especially, and I have to come back to it because it's just so important for this video, especially when the emotions are there. If you're having an emotional reaction to everything that is said to you, probably need to change something so that you stop suffering. So there is something there. Emotional reactions happened a hell of a lot mid-December. Signs were there to say, maybe this is slowing down. I never know for sure, because this is what happened here. I never know for sure what's going to happen on this side of the screen. This is just telling me probably looks like we're going to slow down at this point. And what do you know? Well, we got to that point, it slowed down. We had the inauguration, and since then we've continued to slow down. That's for BTC. Now, in terms of your altcoins, what can I do to avoid losses next time? Bitcoin was showing some signs there. Sure, altcoins could keep going up at that point, and some did. Some did keep pushing into January. We saw massive spikes on some of those meme coins like USA, but it's so short-lived. So if you're able to trade those things by the hourly basis and get out, by all means, do that. There was a lot going on there. There was obviously Trump coin at the time as well on that inauguration, and it's basically collapsed from there. The other thing you can do there is look at what BTC is doing, and if you see these massive spike days, try not to think you're going to get the tops. Just if you're making great profits, identify what that amount of great profit is for you, and then just stick to that plan. That's going to be far, far easier. Now, you don't have to sell on the way up either. Can I avoid these losses next time? Yes. Here is one more strategy you can use. Those two are looking at the strength and weakness for BTC and then seeing what your altcoin chart is doing. We've also looked at the BTC charts, the alt versus BTC chart. I've talked about the 50% level at length. You've also got the Gann Swing Pro looking at your swing lows. So instead of selling on the way up into that hype, maybe you want to wait. You want to see how many hype days, is this altcoin, meme coin going to have? This is on a daily chart here. So you have 1 day, 2 days, 3 days of hype, a little bit lower. Maybe you want to come down to a 4-hour chart to get a little bit closer to the market because I know your boss doesn't check out what you're doing day to day on your computer and you have time to do this. Well, then you've got these swings on the way up as well. Wild, wild swings. But you can also look at some of the lows too. So getting out at some of the daily swing lows or the 4-hour swing lows or the lows of those bars. Just continue to track your stop losses up to the lows of that day. Now, if they're really, really wild swings, you have to go down to very, very short time frames here because obviously the volatility of the move. If they're not as volatile as something like these crazy ass meme coins, well, then you can play it from a day-to-day basis. And so in the case of, as an example for USA here, you really do have to go down to some very short time frames to try and capture as much as you can from the top. Otherwise, when you see this sort of thing, maybe you're able to ride the bounce, the dead cat bounce, and then take some profits on the way down, whether you're taking it on the breakdowns of swings, maybe you're taking it on some hyped up bars here where you start to see reversals like this one here, big volume, doesn't go anywhere, gets rejected near the tops. You have it again, another rejection at the highs, and it doesn't follow through. Again, it's on a 15-minute chart, so it's some pretty difficult stuff to play, which is why I prefer to leave it with BTC or the majority of the portfolio. It's not me trying to tell you to be in Bitcoin maxi. It's just what I do. You do whatever the hell you want. If you want to throw your money into altcoins, great. But in terms of how can I avoid these losses next time, Bitcoin's slower. Maybe you're going to make 50%, 80%, but have a reflection on what you've made in the last 12 months or 6 months or however long you've been in the market. Did you make 100%? Bitcoin did 120% from August to December. It's done a little more into January. Did you make that amount in that period? If you did, great. Keep doing what you're doing. Like the video, move on to the next one if you wish. If you didn't make that 100% in the last 4 or so months, understand why, and maybe the emotions, you're not ready for the emotions. That's okay. It's okay if you're not ready for the damn emotions. It takes a bit of time. I'm not saying that I'm perfect with them either, but at least I've got something to fall back on. That's my plan. And I'm following mostly my portfolio with BTC because it's a slower moving vehicle. And I prefer that over the ridiculousness of the altcoins. It's the hype and the dump. So if you weren't able to make that with your portfolios, you don't have to write anything about it. It's up to you. So at the end of the day, it is your own portfolio. You don't need to tell anyone about it. Probably best you don't tell anyone about it because again, at the end of the day, this is cryptocurrencies and you should be keeping that private. In terms of the percentages here, getting in and out, looking at some of the breakout points or the areas where the market flipped into bullish, at least in my opinion from my own analysis, I'm looking somewhere around this September period and these lows here in September. So using an average here to where we currently are, it's about a 60% move. So sure, it took September to now, well, call it 6 months from August into here. 6 months, 60%, 10% a month. It doesn't sound sexy at all, but I'm not here to make things sound sexy. I'll leave that to the meme coin, altcoin degenerate specialists who make everything sound sexy, yet nothing is pulled off for the majority of people. Most people just don't make it in the game, and we've seen that year upon year upon year. That's the gambler's mindset. I hope if you've made it this far in the video, whether it's a 20 or 30-minute video, I don't know at this stage, if you made it that far, you aren't part of the gambler mindset and you want to make something longer term for yourself, for your family, for your community, whatever goal it is that you have in mind. At least you got something written down. That has been your altcoin dilemma that I believe everyone is facing, especially from what I've seen. Longest outro in history. That's enough. Cheers.